Welcome to DABCC Radio,
where smart people listen.
Virtualization and Cloud Talk,
Featuring cutting-edge solutions from the hottest companies around the globe.
broadcasting from the DABCC offices in sunny Sarasota, Florida.
Surrounded by computers, books, and Legos.
A Microsoft MVP, Citrix Charter CTP, VMware vExpert.
And your host, Douglas Brown.
Hello and welcome to another DABCC radio episode. This is Doug Brown and I'm very excited to have Citrix back on the line with us. We have another Citrix Ready podcast, and today they brought one of their partners, a company or a solution called SkySync. And SkySync is a really interesting, intriguing, really neat solution for adding a lot of value into the ShareFile space. Right, but it's not ShareFile only. They work with other solutions too. So do you guys going to have to, if you're not a ShareFile customer, then well, you probably should be. But if you're not one, then definitely listen to this podcast also. Very neat stuff. So without me rambling or trying to explain what we're going to talk about and getting way ahead of myself, let's just dive into my interview. So today we have Steve Woodward, who's the CTO of SkySync. And we have Anil Kumar, who's one of the Citrix Ready folks that does a lot of the validations and just dives into all these Citrix Ready, all these products that are becoming Citrix Ready. So I love these podcasts. It's a great way for me to learn. It's a great way for you guys to learn and be introduced to new technologies. And what else do I say? But thanks. But let's dive into. But thanks for listening, and let's dive into my interview with SkySync. Okay, guys, thanks so much for taking the time to do this with me. I look forward to this. As I always say, my favorite part about the podcast is I get to learn along with everyone else. And SkySync is a newer company for me. I've followed you guys a little bit, but I'm really excited about this podcast to dive into it and learn in detail what you guys are doing and share that with the audience. So with no further ado, let's just get to it. Steve, I'll introduce and ask you first. So who are you and what do you do over at SkySync?
Well, hello. I am Steve Woodward. I'm the CTO at Portal Architects. We're the creators of the product called SkySync, and we're a privately owned Ann Arbor, Michigan company. We were founded in 2011. We won the Gartner Cool Vendor Award in 2015. So that's really what we're about. SkySync is a powerful middleware technology that can sync or migrate files, folders, metadata, and permissions between disparate storage platforms like Citrix ShareFile. And it can move things basically from on-premise storage systems traditionally into the cloud. So it's kind of a migration and hybrid middleware tool.
Very cool. Very good. Cool. Anil, who are you and what do you do over at Citrix Ready?
So, hey, Doug. Hey, Steve. Good to be back in one of your podcasts once again. I'm Anil Kumar. I'm a Citrix Ready technical marketing lead, leading the network ecosystem. As a technical marketing lead, I'm responsible for supporting technology partner companies like SkySync, who have successfully integrated and validated their products with Citrix. And once the validation is done, I'm in constant touch with all these partners in terms of providing them updates of new releases, verifications, technical support, etc. Prior to Citrix, I worked with companies like HP, Fujitsu as a Citrix admin. I'm also a Citrix certified professional. I love trekking, and lately I've been running a lot.
That is great. I don't run, but I have been exercising. I walk a lot. So that's new for me, Anil. Okay, Steve. So let's get into this thing and let's learn all about your solution, SkySync. So can you tell us about the company and your product and what are you trying to do? Why did you create this? You know, what problems is it trying to solve?
Sure. Well, the personnel here at the SkySync team, we've been working together in various startups in the past. We created some products around storage, blob optimization on SharePoint a few years back, and some other products that we've built over the years. And we've really been in content management and ECM, most of us, for a large portion of our career. So we saw this need a few years back where we saw cloud adoption and people moving to EFSS systems like Citrix ShareFile. And we recognized the need that there was very little tooling available that could connect to a wide variety of systems and allow you to just move the content from system to system along with all the different friction points between the various platforms. So we kind of saw that. We started creating the product, working with customers, trying to define their needs. And really that's where SkySync came from, is that genesis of let's connect to a lot of different on-prem systems, let's connect to a lot of different cloud systems, let's kind of bridge that gap, and then let our customers use it, whether they want to create a long-term kind of hybrid or integrated type environment, or if they just want to migrate the data and start using the capabilities of ShareFile in the cloud and things. That's really where the genesis of SkySync came from. We saw that need. We started working with customers to just really help them adopt the cloud in a clean, efficient way.
So what do you mean by that? What exactly do you bring to ShareFile? I mean, can you explain that in more detail?
Sure. Most organizations, it's really about the content, at least as far as SkySync's concerned. And people have content traditionally. Most data is still on-premise, although that is changing. And traditionally, most storage content is tied up at organizations on some kind of network share or a disk array device on the network, a series of file shares, or perhaps ECM systems or SharePoint systems or other type of on-prem repositories. And the real thing is clients, have a couple different needs, and it depends on the customer and the use case, of course. But many times there's this need for what we call mobile enablement or any kind of a hybrid environment where maybe, I have an ECM system on premise, but I'd like to, that's my system of record. It's perhaps very important, but I really want to use the great, mobile enablement technologies that ShareFile has, the sharing capabilities, all the great tools that ShareFile might provide. And I'd like to say maybe let field personnel or external collaborators access content from my ECM repository, but in just kind of a view-only or shared fashion out through the cloud. That's the kind of hybrid environment you could kind of pull and publish data selectively out. That's one very common use case nowadays. Okay. And the other one just being, hey, I want to adopt ShareFile. I want to get consolidation and savings on internal resources and servers and hardware and maintenance, and I'd like to adopt ShareFile for cost savings or consolidation. Then we enable that as well just by helping to physically move the content along with its permission and metadata and some other related artifacts to just, again, help the customer get set up in ShareFile and work with their existing content so that they can continue their operations.
Perfect. I have more questions. I want to dive into that in detail, but before I do that, let's talk about this is a Citrix Ready podcast, so we have Anil with us, and let's talk about the views of SkySync's partnership with Citrix Ready. So I'll throw that at Anil first. And can you talk a bit about your experience with these guys, what they bring to Citrix and things like that?
Sure. So SkySync has been a Citrix Ready partner since over an year now, and they've been really great. They also participated in our recent Spotlight video contest, and they were one of the top 10 finalists. And Citrix and ShareFile, as you know, we actively seek partnership with companies that provide the market with a solution that meets the need of our mutual customers, extending the functionality of ShareFile and basically mutually enhancing both of our products. And that's what we could see in SkySync. As you know, ShareFile is an industry leader in terms of enterprise file sync and share solution, and the best part about ShareFile is we don't really care where your data is stored, if it's in a Dropbox or Microsoft SharePoint or Google Docs or anywhere. We kind of provide that control plane and security so that files could be accessed and stored anywhere, and SkySync really complements Citrix ShareFile in terms of what we provide in terms of enterprise file sync and share. So they've really been great partners. I had the opportunity to see a demo of how they can easily move files, synchronize files between various file share services, and it's really good.
That's great. Steve, anything to add there?
Yeah, I think Anil covered most of it, but just from our side, working with the Citrix Ready folks in the marketplace, it's really great. It allows the members of the ecosystem to kind of find compatible products they can work with. So if they're looking for migration help, or how can I do some of these scenarios? How can I connect to a Documentum system or some other example, but get that content back to ShareFile? They can search right on the marketplace, find SkySync, and hopefully become aware of us, which is probably one of our larger challenges as a small company.
Sure.
Just letting people know what we have and the capabilities we can help them with is sometimes our biggest challenge.
You bet. Well, that's one of the things we want to accomplish here with the podcast too. Is like I mentioned earlier, is I get to learn, but we also get introduced just to all the guys out there and have them check it out. Check out what you guys are doing and see if it fits in with what their needs are. So hopefully this helps a bit. So that being said, how well do this SkySync products integrate with Citrix? Can you describe maybe, Steve? Can you maybe describe what it takes to get it working with the Citrix solution? Sure.
Essentially, we think that it integrates real well with Citrix technologies. ShareFile has like Anil said, it's enterprise file sync and share. The API is very robust and stable. So it was really actually one of the first connectors for the cloud platforms we created with SkySync. It's been in the product for a long time. We did a major enhancement earlier this year to update to the latest ShareFile APIs. I believe that was their version 3 of their APIs. And we also added some more advanced features that SkySync supports around things like impersonation and user drive mapping and stuff. And really the way we integrate with it is SkySync's kind of built around the concept of connections anyway, because we cast a wide net and we connect to a lot of different platforms. Typically, a customer use case will be they'll define a source connection. It might be as simple as just pointing at a file share or an NFS share or a disk folder or something, depending on what the source platform is. And then they'll need to create a connection to the ShareFile platform. And typically, because we go right through ShareFile's provided web OAuth, login infrastructure and things, and so essentially they just grant SkySync access to the content, and we don't cache their credentials and anything. So it's really just a matter of logging into ShareFile and letting SkySync kind of participate in that. And then once we have access to the API stack through those credentials, we can do whatever we need to do. So we can impersonate different users based on configuration. We can move things around. We can lay down permissions as they were seen on the local disk into ShareFile so that the same content can be shared out appropriately and accessed by different people. So we integrate real well with their APIs and the technology around ShareFile. It's a really robust platform, and it gives us a lot of capabilities to give customers really good handles on some of the use cases they're trying to get to.
Oh, that's very cool. Anil, anything to add?
Yes. So one very interesting feature what SkySync provides is during the synchronization or the migration, you get to keep the associated file systems, their properties, the version, the permissions, everything intact, and even if the target destination is using a different file system, it automatically changes it without the admin do any extra settings. So you just have to drag and drop the files from one kind of file storage to another, and SkySync is able to automatically detect what needs to be done and delivers it. That's one of the best features I've seen with the SkySync.
That's cool. That is very, very cool. Steve, maybe can you talk about some of the other key features? Share, not a handful. That's a lot, right? But maybe two or three. The one do you find is really, really interesting?
Yeah, well, one thing that comes up quite a bit, many customers have two kind of paradigms of data that they care about. And many times there's kind of what we call the share folder type problem, or there's other terms for it. But in general, customers have data that's shared by a geographical region. Perhaps it's city-based or remote office-based. Perhaps it's organizational-based by departments or operations or field, things like that. Or maybe it's project-based, Project X81 or Project 5 or this construction initiative. So when they have those kind of organized that way, that's kind of one type of data where people collaborate on it, they work together, and essentially it's kind of a big shared bucket repository where your structure into it, your visibility into it all comes from the permissions and metadata attached to the content. That's one type of data. And I'm just saying that, and SkySync moves all that data today, very nicely. It replicates the folder structures. It can replicate the permissions based on some mapping you can set up. It can replicate, pull across any metadata and the versions. It will sanitize file names, those things that Anil was mentioning, to just kind of, we call it reducing the friction between systems, because all these systems have different rules. The one major feature I'll highlight that I think is kind of as strong as the other piece of the challenge that customers often have, which is kind of the last mile data or user type data, where it's not in a shared collaborative folder. It's not kind of a good fit, if you will, for kind of a global shared repository of data. It's more, of Steve Woodward's data, his local My Documents or his local user drive type share. One of the neatest features of SkySync we can do with literally by creating a job template and just a few clicks of the mouse, we can point at a source system that might have 10,000 user home drives, for example, for different people in the organization, do some mapping and rules against that, and then essentially translate that into and put every individual user's content into their individual Citrix ShareFile account. So, for example, Steve Woodward's home drive on disk, through the mapping and transformation process, it would map and detect that Steve Woodward does have an account on Citrix ShareFile, and it would put all of my personal information into my account via impersonation. So all the timestamps line up, all the created by and author type stamps will line up correctly as you would expect, and then just move on to the next user and put all of his data into his account as well. So admins don't have to have this hand-to-hand combat around credentials and thousands of users. They can literally just set up a template and then just let that go, for everyone in their organization if that's the kind of use case they're going for.
Very cool, very cool. So, Steve, I have to ask you, how is your product different than the other solutions on the market? And why would somebody be more interested in what you guys are doing versus, some of the competition out there?
Sure. And there is, more emerging competition. Of course, the cloud is a growing space, and more people are getting in. There are several other options out there, but many of those are designed as cloud service offerings, or some of them maybe will have a limited number of platforms, where they may focus very specifically on, say, Microsoft SharePoint, or very specifically on an ECM stack of some sort, or it may be a Citrix-only partner or whatever. But, again, SkySync, we cast a very wide net. We thought it was very important to give people the capabilities to pull in more or less whatever system they were looking for. And we've even provided APIs if people want to create their own connectors into SkySync for legacy systems or, homegrown repositories. That's certainly possible as well. But in the end, I think our major differentiators are we're designed to be on-prem, where we still feel most of the data is. It's still more of a challenge for organizations to get data from on-prem into the cloud rather than the other way around. So we are not a cloud, quote-unquote, service. We're more of a appliance or on-prem middleware software. And we think that just gives us, the abilities to tackle the on-prem problems, which are still a little more challenging. They're more legacy-based. The protocols aren't as open, things like that. Whereas the cloud-based systems based on standards and OAuth and HTTPS like Citrix ShareFile, they're just a lot more straightforward and open. They're much more easy to connect to. Their APIs are published and well-known. And so, through that and through our use of job templates and impersonation, those user drive mapping features I was talking about, I think that really sets us apart from the competition in that we're really designed for scale. We do really large migrations and integrations. And those are all the kind of ways I think SkySync kind of stands above the crowd.
That's cool. That's cool. So describe to me, Steve, I want to try this out. First of all, I imagine people can try it out. Do you have a trial version?
Yeah, we do. Right from our website, if you go to www.skysync.com, there's a bunch of information about the product there. There's information on how you could purchase it, which is always important, at least to the SkySync team. And then there's information about how it's licensed and everything. And right at the top, there's a big button that says Download Trial. We offer a 14-day trial of the software with the features unlocked so that people can kind of stand up a simple integration, do some testing, and just make sure it's going to work the way they expect for them.
Perfect. So now they download it and they say, now what do I do? So can you walk us through, getting this thing up and running and,
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, SkySync essentially, it's like any other Windows type program, where you would run the setup, and admins are pretty familiar with that. Along the way, the default settings, we've taken a lot of pains with SkySync to make sure that we've got intelligent default settings for everything, so that in general, administrators can just kind of stand it up and go, and then kind of peel back the layers or the details as necessary to kind of really fine tune it. So, for example, once you've installed it out of the box, it'll just install. But if you need to integrate with an enterprise SQL Server farm or something, there are abilities in the installer to kind of choose that from the interface. But really, it's a straightforward install process. You laid down SkySync, and then there's two pieces to the product. There's kind of a user interface configuration application that you actually interact with, and then behind the scenes, there's a Windows service and some tooling that run in the background that actually do all the heavy lifting and work. It schedules all these integration jobs. It takes care of any retries and things like that. If there's any scheduling that's set up by the customer to perhaps only run migration jobs, or at least only run under high bandwidth scenarios between midnight and 6 a.m. so that we don't impact operations, those kinds of things. But the admin then would just use that tool to configure, and it's a very straightforward graphical choice where they select their source, they select their destination, they set any rules about that they want to set, and then just essentially set a schedule, and SkySync will take care of the rest and email them reports. So it's fairly straightforward. Where the kind of difficulties come in sometimes are really more butting into customer systems, customer IT infrastructure things. And we've done a lot to make it as simple as possible. It's an enterprise class app, but we feel like, compared to many competitors in the enterprise space, we've done a pretty good job of making it consumable and easy.
That's great. So there's no excuse for people not to give this a try. That's awesome.
That's right.
So can you talk maybe, you have customers out there, people are pretty happy about using what you guys create. So can you maybe give us some customer success stories or use cases?
Sure. One that jumps right off the top of my head, we have a shared customer with ShareFile that is Commercial Contracting Corporation. And they're another Michigan-based corporation like Portal Architects and SkySync. And they wanted to use this for a quick migration. And by quick, it was, really that was their biggest thing, was they had 2 weeks to move 2.4 terabytes from on-prem up to ShareFile. Wow. And they had been on a different EFSS provider that I guess they weren't happy with, and they found that ShareFile was a lot better for their business objectives. So what they realized was they had some project management software and some different integration points, and that in this whole short window, they were, very nervous, if you will. So they decided to use SkySync, and they've been very, very happy, and that's why they put a success story on our website. It's also, again, if you go to skysync.com, you can find the case study for Commercial Contracting Corporation. And really, what they were trying to accomplish was, in this case, this use case was more about scale. It wasn't about any exotic repository or ECM systems or even permissions or some of the more advanced features per se. It was really more of kind of your dump truck, your forklift type scenario where, hey, I've got 2.4 terabytes of valuable, useful user content over here. I really need that in ShareFile, and I need to do that in just a few weeks. And I'd like to bring along the permissions and the user accounts and the groups and all of those so I can just hit the ground running. And that's what we were able to do for them. And, they've been so pleased. They were willing to go on video with us and do a video success story and things. And you can see that on our website.
And you brought a clip with you, right? This is like a DABCC radio first. My guest brought a clip.
We did. We do have a clip, and we could probably run that now.
We will run it right now.
My name is Paulette Stokowski. Vice President Operations Support at Commercial Contracting. Commercial Contracting is a full-service construction company. We provide general contracting, construction management, millwright rigging, concrete services, as well as building interiors. We have projects all over North America, including Mexico, and it's necessary for us to collaborate with our customers, with our subcontractors, and other partners. We've been through several transitions with our data infrastructure. One of the transitions included moving our active projects from on-premises out to the cloud. From there, we've moved from one cloud vendor to Citrix ShareFile. There were a couple factors that moved us towards migration to ShareFile, and one of those was the direct integration with our Timberline Sage construction management software. The second reason was we felt like we needed more control over our data. We found that Citrix ShareFile offered a lot of security and tighter management. So after we made the decision to migrate to Citrix ShareFile, we needed to move the data quickly. SkySync was highly recommended by Citrix ShareFile as a partner to help us make this migration happen on a fast track. One of the largest benefits we found with using SkySync was not only getting data moved over in a short period of time, but the user permissions that came along with it. In order for us to set up the user permissions and get all the projects set up the way that they were, it would have taken us days to replicate what we had. We were able to log into the job control panel. We made tweaks to the application to improve performance. SkySync was invaluable. We absolutely needed this particular product to make this project happen. Now that the migration is complete, we have our user base using Citrix ShareFile. I've received rave reviews from the users that they couldn't be happier to have the fast access to their data. I couldn't be happier that I know my data is secured and I know who's accessing it. It would not have been possible to do a migration of this size in the time frame we needed without the assistance of SkySync. And I couldn't be happier.
And just to add to that, SkySync being a Citrix Ready product, our ShareFile product managers did make the suggestion to the customer to go with SkySync. To do all the migration from their on-prem storage to ShareFile.
Okay, Steve, that's great. That's great. So, how does I have a couple more questions for you, real quick, and the second to last one is how does your product complement Citrix products? And we've talked about that almost the entire podcast, but maybe if there's anything pointed you want to point out, and then maybe Anil can add to that also. So, I'll just throw it out there. How does your product complement Citrix?
Yeah, we have talked about it quite a bit because, in a lot of ways it is about the partnership here between ShareFile and SkySync and how we work together to provide customers with great value. But ShareFile is a great EFSS solution, enterprise class. It's backed by Citrix hardware and software products. And, when we bring SkySync into the mix, it just really gives, like we talked about here, just the ability for customers to migrate and just integrate, bring along their important content. Many organizations anymore, their content is their lifeblood. It's the real value in the organization as we move to the information economy. Obviously, that content, is very, very valuable to organizations. So really, people just like the fact that, hey, I'm sold on ShareFile. It's great. It's what we need. But now I really need to kind of bridge that gap to get our existing content over there. They see SkySync. They know they can bring along their permissions, their metadata. They can do some of this mapping and bidirectional synchronization. That just gives them a really big tool belt, if you will, to once people start getting into SkySync and using it and maybe even accomplish their initial migration task, once they see the types of things they can do, once they see the types of integrations and consolidation opportunities they have, almost all customers use SkySync more widely than they initially intended to.
Sounds good. Anil, anything to add?
All right. Couldn't agree with Steve more. ShareFile being the leader, we've been awarded the leader in Gartner's Magic Quadrant for enterprise file sync and share service. And as you know, Citrix solutions are spread across 400 organizations across the world. So with this kind of a number and with ShareFile being the leader in EFSs, and we always seek partnership with partners like SkySync, who really complement Citrix ShareFile, make all these migration activities easy for customers, so that they can really embrace Citrix ShareFile. So we are very happy to work with and partner with SkySync so far.
Okay, guys. Well, that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. This is really interesting stuff. So, guys out there listening, definitely check this out. Go ahead and download it. And Steve, I have one more question for you. And I actually asked this earlier, or you answered it earlier, but just let's rehash this thing. If somebody wants to learn more, what do they need to do?
Yeah, we would say, go to www.skysync.com and check out the software. There's a lot of information there. We offer a free trial, and many times we'll get online with customers and do a live demo, talk through it with decision makers and IT administrators, and just kind of, talk through their scenarios, point out for them any best practices or use cases that, we're aware of because we've done this many times now. And, I would just say, go to the website, start to become educated, and then reach out to us because, we work with customers all the time, helping them to define and understand their problems and really just, get integrated to the cloud and get their powerful content into Citrix ShareFile.
Perfect. And on that note, guys, I'll go ahead and give you the last word, and we'll call this a show. So if there's anything else you want to talk about, now is your time, or forever hold your peace. Right. So, Steve, any last words?
No, I just think I would summarize with one of the things we were talking about is kind of the theme in many ways of the whole podcast discussion here was what's great about SkySync, what's great about Citrix, and how do they work together to make the sum greater than the parts, right? And I would just say, in the end, we've talked about here, we've got the most powerful EFSS solution with ShareFile. We've got the most powerful cloud migration middleware here with SkySync. Why wouldn't that be a fit for people to just, download, try it out? There's a lot of capability there. And we feel like, as we've described on this call, there's a lot of capability there for organizations to really achieve some cost savings and some really good benefits by adopting ShareFile and getting their content in the cloud.
Perfect. And Anil, any last words from you?
Yes, I think SkySync is a really cool product and complements Citrix ShareFile in many different ways. You should definitely check it out in our Citrix Ready marketplace. Just go to www.citrixready.com and look for or search for SkySync. You should be and there should be all the details about SkySync and how to contact SkySync guys.
Perfect. And then, of course, I'll have links in the show notes. So if you're watching this from the website or the application, the mobile app that we have, just scroll down and you can see the show notes and click on it from there. And we have some good stuff in there. So on that note, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today and share with what you're doing with SkySync, and very neat technology. And I can see how this definitely helps out, customers in the ShareFile world. So thanks again for taking the time to do this with us.
Yeah, appreciate the call to be on here, Doug, and thanks, Anil. And it's been great having this discussion.
Likewise, thanks, Steve. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes another successful episode of DABCC Radio. As always, I want to thank my guest for today, Steve Woodward from SkySync, the makers of SkySync. Great technology, guys. You got to check this out. If you're ShareFile customers, or if you're not a ShareFile customer, check it out too, because they work with other things. But if you're a ShareFile user, and I know a lot of you guys are, then definitely check out what these guys bring to the table, because hopefully we did a decent job today explaining that, but there's more to it. So they have a lot of happy customers and a lot of extremely happy customers. And that says something. So check it out, and I think you guys will be very happy with what you find. And on that note, of course, I want to thank Anil and Citrix Ready for making these podcasts happen. Hopefully they're happy podcasts too, for making these things happen and bringing me some technologies I might not know about. SkySync was one of those that was newer to me. right? I read about them. I'd seen the press releases pass my desk, but I didn't know in detail. So I was very excited about, one, learning a newer technology, and I was, two, intrigued and happy about what I found. So I think you guys will be too. And so with no further ado, I want to thank again Citrix. I want to thank SkySync, Steve, for making this happen. But most important, I want to thank each and every one of you guys. It is the holiday season. We had Thanksgiving in America. I'm thankful for every one of you guys for making DABCCs a success and allowing me to do this for a living. I really love what I do. I love sharing great information with you guys. And hopefully you find technologies like SkySync that you might not have found in other places and say, wow, this solves a use case. This solves one of my problems. And if I'm able to do that, then I'm doing something good and I'm happy, right? I provide a value to you. So please, if you like it, tell a friend, share that love, and I definitely appreciate it. Visit dabcc.com for the latest and greatest virtualization and cloud and desktop and mobility and data syncing solutions, news, and support resources, and check out our mobile apps too. So head on over to your favorite app store, be that Apple or Android, and search for DABCC, and you'll find a great app for you to look at while you're waiting for that next meeting or doing whatever you're playing with your apps on your phone. It's a nice one to add to the news folder. So on that note, guys, thank you so much for listening to DABCC Radio.
Can you say DABCC?
DABC.
Say it again, DABCC.
DABC.
Can you say it again, DABCC?
DABC.
How about DABCC?
DABC.
DABCC.
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 DABCC.